In the advent of technology, it is remarkable what has now been made possible. With the click of a button, an array of overwhelming information is made available, informing every aspect of human life. In the 21st century, there is a real fear that soon everything will be replaced by computers and robots that can do things with more precision at a shorter amount of time and less capital in long run. This nihilist motion is contested by what are arguably the most resilient qualities of a man, which is his creativity and imagination. And as long as there is a cultivation of both these qualities, no robot or artificial intelligence can replace man just yet. Art is the most significant ways in which we can try to grapple with how the present unfolds. Robert Henry's The Art Spirit, 1923, stated that art, when really understood, is the province of every human being. Artist is alive in any person, whatever his kind of work may be. He becomes an invented, searching, daring, and self-expressing creature. In Peter Drucker's seminal book Post-Capitalist Society, 1993, he stated that the real controlling resource and decisive factor of production is neither capital, not plant, nor labor. It is knowledge. This is evident in the recognition that professionals, i.e. in the creative sector, are integral drivers and movers in society. In the first episode of the video series New Ways of Seeing, a project by the New York Times, T. Brand Studio, and Tiffany art critic Jerry Saltz 2016 underscored the significance of not only the discovery of cave paintings but also the paintings themselves. Out of the shadows of these caves, outstanding headway was made in terms of how man continued to utilize his surroundings to create varying expression of his ideas and feelings. The impulse to create is at the core of human civilization, much like the impulse to communicate through language. Early on, artists were embedded in the development of culture, and art was nurtured by the varying cultures. The works produced varied from prosaic to those that explore a wide range of aesthetic possibilities. It was in this light that artists worked, and most of the time, the products were considered not as artworks but rather as craft or placed under some other category. The use of word embedded may be taken to mean that what was created automatically circulated in the operations of society and was not integral to an art object that the identity of its maker be known. It did not take long before this change. The artisans and guilds. Museums are packed with numerous artifacts and interesting objects from all over the world. Magnificent structures are appreciated not only for their historical significance but more so for their aesthetic characteristics. Technology and knowledge in managing and conserving these objects and structures enable them to retain the integrity of the artwork. Craftsmen and builders in the past did not have sophisticated terminologies and principles that architects and engineers abide by today. What they had was a sense of how materials behave, how the environment, light, and weather patterns affected structures, and other more intuitive principles of creation. Craft guilds were prevalent during the Middle Ages, particularly during the 13th to 15th century. Guilds were a type of social fellowship and association structured with rules, custom, rights, and responsibilities. With a lifetime commitment to a particular trade, an artisan develops immense skill and expertise in his craft. A master artisan or craftsman would be open hiring apprentices who would be under his tutelage and instruction. In these guilds, artistry and technology flourish under one roof. The cost and lack of funds meant that some of the knowledge that went into production was difficult to put into words. Consider this in addition to the fact that receiving the explanation of how something is made does not automatically make us impresarios who can carry out the task bump-free. Albrecht Dürer was born in 1471. His father was a goldsmith and apprenticed as such. He published quite a number of books and treatises on particular skills and an artist. His works were written in the first-person singular format, practical in the way it was written and supported by illustrations. During the Spanish colonial period, Artisans were used to depict religious images and scenes. Friars commissioned artisans to carve, paint, and engrave images for churches and public sites. Project Isame is a collective endeavor amongst enthusiasts and advocates who aim to promote this art form. Portraits were meant to showcase the local inhabitants of country in different garbs and clues to their occupation and status. Other important genres of painting at that time were the typus del vice and letras y figuras.
Hi, my name is Jade Angko and I am here to report to you my lesson, The Artist and His Studio. Moving back to Europe, the big shift that propelled the evolution of pivotal role of the artist in the arts started during the Middle Age up to the Renaissance period. Artists claiming authorship for their works by affixing their mark onto the surface of the paintings were a big milestone in the history of the artist. Most pivotal developments included the transformation of craftsman to an artist or an independent artist. The widespread patronization of secular art alongside the continuous production of works with religious subjects, and the assertion of cognition, the will, and individuality. Today, artist studios have been place of interest for the public. An artist studio is an extension of artist himself. The studio model dates back from the Renaissance, when the artists flexed their relationship with their patron. They were those whose workstations were segmented into two. In the 17th century, these demarcations became loose, eventually merging together. This was especially true with artists who explored oil paint techniques such as studiolo and bottega. Apprentices studied under masters, assisting with menial tasks of the preparation of painting surfaces. In France, academies and arts salons became popular as they do not only support the production of art but also discourse around them. Criticism and analysis were highlighted as integral aspects of art engagement. To be included in the exhibition was deemed an honor, especially since it did not take a while before it was considered an arbiter of standards and taste. The beginnings of industrial revolution had an interest ramification of artists and compendium of event released the artist from the limitations that affected the way in which they produced their works. This included the availability and portability of materials, example, foldable easels and paint in tubes, and the reliance on the wealthy patrons to place a commission. It was during this time that a host of styles developed side by side, allowing artists to fully grasp the potential of artistic license. Other players in the world of art. The terrain in which the artist traversed is becoming increasingly complex, sophisticated networks of relationship and exchanges. This network is what we call the art world.